Hello, hello. Welcome to all of my dog loving fans, much like myself. I know there are a bunch of y'all. I got 3 pups at home. But I closed the door so they don't bother my paint night. I am going to be showing you how I paint one of my new welcome signs. So it says, welcome, beware of wiggle butts. But I've got a whole bunch that say like, welcome, but did you text first? Welcome, but did you bring wine? But did you bring snacks? But did you bring alcohol? I have welcome, oh, the one on my front door currently, although this one may replace it, says welcome, just kidding, go away. Welcome, grandkids spoiled here. So I have all sorts of this style, this design. It's, excuse me, nice and simple, easy to paint. And so these pieces, I went ahead and spray painted them. I think yesterday I spray painted them. There's a Rust-Oleum spray paint color called Aqua that I love. So that's what I did with these, is these were spray painted just because I super duper love that color. Plus, smaller stuff like this, all these little letters, spray paint really is the easier way to do it. Now, if you want to sit down and craft paint it, obviously I've got all sorts of craft paints. Little sponges, like makeup sponges, wedges are fabulous for doing the little pieces, right? Kind of dab it on like this. Or foam brushes too. But again, the best way to get when you have all these little edges because of all the letters is to dab it on, right? Not to do big strokes because you're going to catch paint on all the little edges. And I find that using an actual like brush makes it harder to paint each individual letter. So I like any sort of sponge or foam and then dabbing the paint on. But those are already spray painted. So that's the color we got there that I love. But what I want to show you, actually let me put this back on here while I'm figuring out the tape. So the way I paint these, and this beware of wiggle butts, you know, it's a certain length, so it fits a certain way. I kind of like to stand up and over it to look at it with the 2 holes at the top to kind of make sure I've got it straight. And I'm going to end up gluing the welcome on just a little bit above there. Okay, grab out your painter's tape. I like to do this top part to look like wood. And I like for a little bit of the L to go over the top of it. So I like to have it come down to somewhere around here. So this part will look like wood. I'm going to end up painting the other part gray. And so I'll show you how I do the wood look. So we got us some painter's tape. Obviously, I'm not going to tape it on top of that welcome. So I'm going to tape down over here. Then I'm going to get this welcome out of the way. I'm just trying to make sure I get it straight with the holes and straight with where I'm going to end up eventually gluing that. So I'm going to paint above first, right? So you can see with my welcome, when I end up gluing it on here, this part's going to be painted to look like wood. So this L is going to cross into it a little bit. I just like that style. All right, so let's get started on our wood look. Start out with some Anita's acrylic craft paint in coffee color. This one does not have a squeeze top, unfortunately. Whoop, so then that's what I do. I get out way too much. And this one's got a whole big old paint booger. Get that out and throw it away. It's appropriate. I'm putting the paint booger onto the Kleenex, right? Those of y'all who deal with craft paint enough, you know what I'm talking about when I say paint booger. It's just this big old rubbery, goopy little paint mess. And it happens to all the best craft paints anyways. Like, doesn't matter if you have the good stuff, cheap stuff, it's gonna happen. Let me pull my hair back. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna take this coffee color, and it does look similar to the color of the MDF that we're painting. You always want to make sure you push the edge down real carefully and make sure not to brush into that edge, right? So always with it or away from it, just so you're not like encouraging the paint getting up under the edge of that painter's tape. So the way I do my wood look is once I've got my base color, then I pick a few other colors and I just dry brush over it. It's not, I mean, I call it a wood look just because I'm using some wood colors, but then I'm also gonna put an accent color in there. But it's just a way to make this top portion look a little bit more eye-catching than just a straight color. Probably could have saved a little time and got another one of these. I was going to use this for when I paint gray down here. I could have gotten a big one for the tan up top. My shirt, make sure I don't get paint on it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go over it a second time. Because we're gonna dry brush with some other colors, you don't always need to get like the most solid coat with this. It's okay if it's a little streaky, because it, you know, just kind of lends to the effect that we're going for anyways. And this round two already has the back painted white. When we are doing a bunch at a time, like we just go ahead and pre-paint the backs of a bunch of them. We use an exterior grade white house paint. So then it's the back's protected. If you're painting your own, you don't have to paint it, but at a minimum, I would use a spray clear sealer on it, even on the back if you're not gonna paint it. Unless, of course, you're hanging it somewhere that doesn't get any weather, right? Like I've got an 8-foot front porch, so really my door hanger is not getting any weather, and especially not on the back, right? If it happens to be like extra windy, I might get some rain sprinkles that blow in on my door hanger, but that's only gonna hit the front anyways. It's definitely by no means getting around to the back. So I would be okay on my front door not painting the back. Now this is obviously my business and I sell these, and so to me it's completed when the back's been painted, so I paint the back no matter what, on a piece that's going to be a door hanger, right? If you are painting your own, it is up to you. All right, just checking my edges out here. I'm just going to use some long strokes here So it kind of has the brush strokes go left and right. There we go. And even though it's a foam brush, you're still going to get brush strokes. I need to wash out my brushes. I just did some painting in here not long ago, and so these are the brushes from that paint where I used like 5 different colors. Okay. So we're going to dry brush this. You can leave the painter's tape on if you want. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. I'm not too worried about accidentally getting paint down here, but you definitely want to take the painter's tape off while the paint is still wet. Matters much more when you're like painting walls in your house because that's such a thick paint. Obviously craft paint is not a super thick paint, so. You can even use painter's tape if you wanted to try to do some stripes, different size stripes, things like that. I think I'm going to try one with some stripes going across this way, and then the word hi down here is going to be one of my next tries, because I have the round with the word hi available for sale, and I wanted to do like a different kind of paint technique with it. All right, so you can see, it's kind of hard to tell, but top has been painted, got a nice line here. And so now I am going to dry brush it with some accent colors. I am going to use gray for the bottom here, because this I've done before looks great with the gray behind it. But to kind of tie that in, I want to use gray on the dry brushing up here. I also am probably going to use white, and I am going to use a color that's pretty similar to that color, so we've got like an accent to it. But I'm going to start with the gray, and if you haven't ever dry brushed with me, well, today you are. All right, so when you're dry brushing, you just want a nice bristly brush. Either one of these would work. You know what I mean by the whole bristly idea, right? No foam brushes, right? So it's got to have some bristles, especially if you've got one that's not super smooth, right? So you don't want like a really fine edge there. So this is perfect. So I'm just going to get a little bit of paint on all of the brush tips. And then next to the paint here, I'm going to dab it off. All right? So that when you're done, there is barely any paint there on the tips. And then with a very light hand, because you can always come back and add more. So always start off with like the lightest hand as possible. Drag your brush across in horizontal lines. Okay, so you can see from my first pass, I know it's real hard to see because my first pass, it's very light, but that's the idea, right? I'm gonna come back and do more now, but every single pass, I want it to be super light. It's what lends it to that, you know, certain kind of look. So with a very light hand, and I definitely want to make sure I tie the gray into the gray that's going to be down here. So I'm going to use a good bit of it. But just very lightly, and then you see I continually am going back, putting more on the tips, dabbing it off. And you should be going back to your paint palette a bunch of times when you're using this technique. It's one of my favorites. If you've seen videos before, you've heard me talk about it, or you've seen another video of it. I just love the effect it gives. All right, I can always come back and add more gray later if I want to. So I'm gonna stop there so you can see where I am. I know it's hard to see in these videos, the differences in these colors. They're kind of subtle on a video, but in person, if you were trying it yourself, not subtle. All right, let me get, well, I guess it is still kind of subtle, but the overall effect is not subtle. All right, we need some white. I'm definitely gonna go light with the white. I don't want as much of it as I had of the gray. And also because I've been dabbing this off and there's barely any gray on it anyways. So I'm gonna use the exact same brush, exact same technique. Very little paint. Sorry, my nose it just dab off some more because I felt like I had too much on there. You'd always rather have less. All right, I'm gonna stop there because like I was saying, I don't wanna overdo it with the white. It can be overpowering. So if you wanna see this step here, that's where we are. Now I'm gonna add the fun color. Oh, I didn't even mention the gray. It's also Anita's. It's called Rainy Day Gray. Love it. And then this one is actually Delta brand. I picked it up because it was on sale. Delta Ceram Coat. It's a Tahiti blue, but I don't know if they make this color anymore. That might have been why it was on clearance, but it was just pretty, so I nabbed it. And I'm thinking it's close of enough color to this to complement. If I don't love it, I also have this one, which is a lighter blue. Oh, that's pretty close, but not quite. You know what? I'm gonna do a little mixy mix. I feel like somewhere between these two is the sweet spot. So I'm gonna add a little bit of this light blue. It's an Anita's morning blue. It's really pretty. But it doesn't really have like that aqua undertone that this does. So now maybe my mixed color will be a little closer to what I'm looking for. That's pretty good. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the light blue. Then I might be like, oh, I added too much light blue. Let's add some more of the Tahiti blue. Back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, that's pretty good. I am pretty happy with that. So, all right, dry brushing our blue. This one I'm trying to be really strategic about because I don't want it too many places, but I do want you to notice it, right? Like I want it to really look like a pop of color. So I think I'm going to stop right there before I overdo it. All right, here's where we're at. I can always go back and add gray. Ugh, I really hate how that shows up in video. But I love the little pop of color here, and that should definitely tie back in, right, with the color here when we put this on. Or beware of wiggle butts. All right. I don't think I want to go back and add any more gray or white. I'm happy with the look. Looks good to me. So now I want to paint this gray. Oh, I should definitely put my brush in water. With painting this gray, when you get up to the line here, hopefully that part will be dry by then. I'm going to put some painter's tape so we can do a straight edge there too. Some people do not mind freehanding a straight edge, you know, against this straight edge you already have. I can do that, but I prefer the painter's tape. So for now, since I can't put the painter's tape on there yet because this paint is still dry, wet up top, I'm just gonna get, you know, within half an inch or whatever of it. I definitely did not squeeze out enough gray. What was I thinking? Here we go. That's easier. I know we're gonna need that much, so let's just go ahead and put it out. Paint boogers. This is just one of my favorite grays. I think it just is it's a gray that complements so many colors because it doesn't, I swear it doesn't have like undertones of any. You know, like grays can have purple undertones and blue undertones and green undertones. So it's just straight up gray. It's awesome. Squeezed out a lot of paint, so I'm just going back and smoothing it all around so I don't have any globs anywhere. This will be a pretty thick first coat, but I'll probably still end up with a second coat. Since I'm not dry brushing anything down here, right, I just want it to look really solidly gray. So I'll definitely want a second coat down here. All right, dry brushing, another fabulous thing about it, because you're putting just like the tiniest little bit of paint on there, dries super fast. So we should be ready for the painter's tape up there to help me do my straight line. And I did want to show you this because most people aren't comfortable with trying to do a straight line by hand. And if you are, then do it, right? Like I just use the side of this brush and I load it up with paint. Like I get a good amount of paint on it. And then I just pull it straight across, right? But I do want to, I do it slower than that when I'm trying to get a straight line. I do want to at least show you the painter's tape technique because not everybody feels comfortable enough to do it that way by hand. So I want to make sure you feel comfortable with this technique. So I'm just going to get out the same amount of painter's tape. And then Whoops. I am going to line it up so that the tape is right along that coffee brown line we painted. There we go. I'm gonna push the edge down. Make sure we've got a really good seal. I keep shifting it, so it's like the tape keeps moving up. Let's try that again. Not to mention my crappy eyes make it hard to see. Because that brown, you know, that coffee color is not that different than the MDF color. So me and my crappy 42-year-old eyes can't tell the difference and see where the stupid line is. I mean, I've obviously always had problems with my eyes. I've got glasses in like 3rd grade. So I've always had glasses. But recently now, of course, right, you start having the up close reading problems. So that's where I'm at in my vision journey right now, and I'm trying to accept it. All right, so just a little bit more gray. And then we'll need some more for the second coat when we get there. And again, I'm going to be really careful to not go against that edge of the painter's tape. I don't want to encourage the paint to smush up under the painter's tape. All right, part 2. So I did a second coat of gray, and then I took the painter's tape off. So you can see, it's still a little damp actually here. I didn't let the gray quite 100% dry. But I have a nice line between my top and my bottom part there, the gray, and then my wood look at the top. I think I'm gonna end up using a burlap bow. I'm not sure. This is kind of like a new color scheme for me with the gray, the brown, the blues. So it's a little kind of rustic, I'm feeling. We'll see. I'm gonna put this on and then I'll figure out what I wanna do about a bow. So we will be gluing these on now. Anytime you glue, you wanna make sure you're using a really thin layer. So spread it out, don't leave any big clumps because it'll smush out the edges. And on these extra little words, I'm gonna get out a sponge to kind of spread out. So I'm just putting like a couple of dots all over. But it really can turn into too much very quickly. So I'm gonna grab one of the little sponges here and go back over the words and spread out all those little dots of glue I did. So I don't want it squishing out the edges. And then same thing on the top bar here. I'm gonna spread it out. If I got any extra, I can put more on the back of the words here. Okay, so again, to make sure I line it up and things look straight, I like to stand over it. That really helps me get the sense of whether it's straight or not. There we go. So we got our beware of wiggle butts. no glue is smushed out, but if it does, little trick here, the easiest way, take a pipe cleaner and fold it just so you don't have the pointy end, and use that and wipe around the edge where the glue is coming out. Wipes it off perfectly. All right, let's figure out where we want to put our welcome. So I knew I wanted that L to go up there a little bit, so probably right about here. I think that's probably gonna look good. All right, let's put some glue on it. I use it's a Tight Bond premium wood glue, interior, exterior, water resistant. I use it on everything, even though, I mean, some of my stuff that I know is going to be used indoors, I don't have to use it on that, but makes it easy. We just use this one on everything. So I know it's all protected for outdoor use if needed. Got any globs here, I just want to spread them out a little bit. Smush them down so they don't smush around the edges. All right. All right, this one I did move it a little bit after it touched down, so I got a little glue sticking out there. There we go, dealt with. Look at that. So cute. Welcome, beware of wiggle butts. I have these little paw prints, little wooden cutout paw prints, a little heart in them. I wonder if I should put like 2 paw prints under here, or maybe just one right in the middle. That might be really cute. We'll think about that. And then let's see what we think about a burlap bow with it. Just to see here. Yeah, I think that's good. It just complements it. It's definitely like a little bit of a rustic look. A simpler color palette because there's not a drop of black in here, barely any white, but like, you know, door hangers, you tend to get like a lot of black and white. Other colors too, right? But like, I mean, predominantly you get a lot of blacks and whites. So I think that's what makes this look different. This would look fabulous on a white door. On a wood door, it would look cute too. All right, so I'm gonna make a bow up for this one real quick. I've got some other tutorials, and I'll be adding some more on how to do bows, but essentially I just loop, pinch, twist. So then loop, pinch, twist. But I do have some other tutorials on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to try to do some like specifically just bows. Because everybody has their different like bow making techniques. But I've been making this style forever. My mom taught me when I was younger. All right, and then I cut it here so that then I can add the tails. All right, so I figure out like exactly what length I want the tails to be and cut it. All right, so the tails are just one solid piece. Fold them, V-cut. So that we get nice little ends there, and then I fold it in half. So I'm kind of setting it up to be the tails of the bow here. So on the back of the bow, I'm going to set this in between the pipe cleaner and then twist the pipe cleaner around it. Try to get it tight as I can, so I'm gonna smush it down and then pull that twist pretty tight. It looks like I have got some jute in here, so I can go ahead and tie this jute. I would love to hear what y'all think about my beware of the wiggle butts. I think it probably depends on your dogs too, like whether you associate that with your dogs. 2 out of my 3 dogs I would call wiggle butts. I got a boxer and a pit bull that are most assuredly wiggle butts, right? They're happy when you get home and they're shaking and everything. The other one is she's like a little rat terrier mix. She doesn't wiggle her butt so much. But the big boys do. All right, burlap was the right choice. Love this. So fluff the bow as usual. I always use wired ribbon. Obviously this glue needs to dry. Sometimes I just see little things. I got a brush. Tomorrow, actually I'm gonna take this bow back off tomorrow, but I just had to put it together to see, but this needs a clear coat, right? So before we hang it outdoors, you wanna spray it with a clear coat. I'm gonna push it all down to make sure the glue's sticking there. But that's gonna be our final product once I get a clear coat on it tomorrow. Okay, so I think I might add a paw print. I've got this little wooden cutout paw print that I use for one of my other door hangers that says, "Welcome, hope you like dogs." So I think I might add it here, or I might just keep it simple. But I am in love with that. I like the two-tone. I like how we got some dimension up here. I also like overall how it's just a little bit simpler. Nothing too over the top, not a lot going on, you know. I was looking at this again to make sure it looks straight. That's one of the things I love about wood glue is you can still kind of mess around with it for up to like 5 or so minutes. Yeah, that looks straight. It just wasn't looking straight on the video because the angle I've got it turned at. I can't seem to get the angle straight, but it looks straight in person, promise. Yay, I love it. I hope you guys love it too. Welcome, beware wiggle butts.